Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Peplink podcast. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host Joey. Joey, how are you doing?
Yay, Adam, how you doing? I'm doing fine.
What have we
Yeah.
got this week?
Well, we've got some nice Peplink success story. We have a few things that we want to discuss with the tips and tricks. We've got some nice tips and tricks going for this episode. And of course, we have some exciting news. And I think it's about switches and also about something in Amsterdam that is happening in May. And of course, we have some features that we go over. And yeah, best of all, we have the next Adam joke. I think you've been cooking with this one, Adam.
Very funny. We're also joined this week with a guest. We have Sam from a company called Wavecast. I first met Sam about 18 months ago when he approached me with some challenges that he had with a current solution he had and was looking at Peplink. We also approached him as well when we started off this podcast as well for a little bit of advice about how to do it, because it's part of what their business does. So should we welcome Sam?
Yes, let's get him in here.
Hi, Sam. How are you doing?
Hey everyone, good, thank you. How are you doing?
Really
Good.
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 Exciting to have you here finally on the podcast because, yeah, we like Adam said, we already have you a talk bus before we started this one. So I'm happy. Let's
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So Sam's one of our UK Peplink users. I'll let him introduce himself. That's probably easiest. Who do you work for, Sam, and what do you do?
So I work for Wavecast as their head of production. Wavecast basically for the last 15 years has been delivering webcasts. So yeah, virtual, hybrid, in-person events. We've been broadcasting those out, and I sort of look after the team that delivers that video to the viewers.
And you approached me probably about, I'd say, 18 months ago. And you had a specific requirement. You were looking at changing how your system works, make it more reliable. And you'd heard about this company called Peplink and wanted to know more. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your challenges and how Peplink fitted in to help you achieve your ultimate goals for the company.
Yeah, fantastic. So this whole process has been an awful lot of learning for me, and it's fascinating stuff. And it all sort of started with, so we were with another vendor for our routing and switching, and their routers, they had a primary WAN and a secondary WAN, and thinking the way I thought back then that was redundancy, and it is redundancy, but it in a live stream, you can see that switch connections drop while they re-establish on that secondary WAN interface. And then I learnt about Peplink and speed fusion bonding. And that was like, oh, this is actually possible. I'm not going crazy. This is amazing. So with speed fusion, we can fail over to multiple WANs and the video isn't interrupted. It's like no one would ever know. It's incredible.
Such an amazing solution, isn't it? I mean, you're right. There's a lot of failover products out there where you have your primary and you have your secondary, but there's always going to be that switch over. There's always that health check going on. There's quite often a switch between IP address even externally, and SpeedFusion gets around all of that. And not only that, you're talking there about a failover system, which SpeedFusion can do. It can fail over from primary to secondary with very low loss, but it can also do both at the same time with WAN smoothing. And that allows 2 packets of data to be transmitted at the same time. And as long as one of those packets gets through, that stream keeps going. And we keep adding more WANs to give it more reliability. But I know, Sam, it didn't just stop with what you were doing at Wavecast headquarters there. You also utilised Peplink out in the field as well, didn't you? I know you showed me some really interesting boxes that you created specifically for the outside link up back to the studio. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So back here at our HQ, we have an SDX Pro. And then, I don't know, probably can't see that, can you?
Can see your arm disappearing out the side of the screen, so I believe you. I believe there's something there.
Imagine there's a 4U rack here, with a video switcher in, a network switch, but most importantly, there's a BR2 in there as well, which is neatly tucked away, and basically that's bonding. Well, when we deploy it to an event, that bonds for us over Ethernet, 2 Wi-Fis, 2 cellulars back here. And so we have all that redundancy bonded back to HQ. And one thing that I really didn't appreciate, I would love so much, is with Speed Fusion bonding, we're actually bridging the layer 2. So what's really cool about that is we can access everything on a remote network. So we could have guys in Abu Dhabi or in New York. We can access all of their stuff. If they're having a bad time with anything, we can monitor that and help out remotely.
So I
It's
suppose
so
that means
powerful.
you can link onto things like their IP cameras, maybe you've got talkback systems, things like that, and that can all exist on the network as if it was in your studio there.
Completely, yeah. So one thing we're doing at the moment is with PTZ robotic cameras. So we're actually controlling those in Manchester, and the cameras could be anywhere in the world.
Amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how was it for you to get to learn more about Peplink? How was that first experience that you had with Peplink? Like, how is it? Is it like from the box easy to deploy, or did you had to get some more knowledge about stuff as well? Like, how was that first experience?
So I think if I liken it to when I started this pre-Peplink, my networking knowledge was pretty low. I've learnt an awful lot. So I thought, right, this makes sense. This stuff's a good price point, and it'll help me learn. Everyone's a winner. But to be honest, it's no easier than Peplink. My mind was blown when I was first introduced to it because there are so many new concepts that are sort of Peplink specific. But they're not difficult to get your head around at all. Especially the way that we're using them. I would say within a day, I completely got everything that I needed to.
And I think you're probably talking about the big bit of glue that Peplink has that's called In Control. And that probably changed your whole perspective of how this whole ecosystem works. And I know you've been talking to me as well as saying, you know, does it just stop with the routers? Is there other stuff we can do with In Control? We're going to explore some of that later on in this podcast of other things that we can do and other things in the ecosystem. But I also know that at the start, you and I would book a half-hour conversation, and probably 2.5 hours later, we were still going down rabbit holes and talking about things that Peplink can do. And oh, wow, I had never even thought about even doing it this way, and it can do that.
Yeah.
And there's no extra cost. I've got this already. It's just amazing.
Well, a great example of that is running Docker containers on the units. So
Are you doing that now?
I am doing that now.
Brilliant.
I'm having great fun. I've gone on a whole discovery journey with Docker, and yeah, great. So we use for some of our video transport, we use a protocol called NDI, which by default sort of advertises sources in a broadcast fashion on the network. But you can deploy a discovery server which sort of handles that. So every device that's sending video goes to the discovery server, and then anything that wants to receive asks the discovery server what's going on, just to help with flooding the network with that info. So that's now running on a Docker container on our SDX Pro.
Amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so cool.
It's so simple and so easy. And I suppose before you'd have perhaps spun up a Raspberry Pi or something to run something like that.
We've actually got quite a cute 1U 4 Raspberry Pi PoE mount.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just feels a little bit safer being on the SDX, I'll be honest with you.
That's good to hear. That's really nice. I really like that.
I suppose the other thing I'd like to touch on as well is the BR2 that you use, because you like the BR2s as equally as you like the SDXs. And one feature I know that you make a lot of use of is being able to buy power the BR2 as well in your
Yes.
little boxes. Do you want to explain to everyone about how you're bi-powering it? And because I don't know if everyone knows that you can bi-power BR2.
Sure. So so on the BR2s, the WAN 1 port will accept PoE. So what we do is we flip our WAN 1 port to a LAN port, and then that trunks to our switch in the rack that you can't see. I'm not sure why I'm looking at.
We'll get a picture of it and we'll put a picture up and say
Yeah.
the rack that Sam is speaking about.
Perfect. And yeah, that LAN port trunks to our switch. So the switch provides PoE power to the BR2, but then also we've got the BR2 plugged in normally as you would into mains. So we've got the two power sources there.
Absolutely
That's
brilliant. I know you had to
useful.
make use of that not too long ago because there was a little small issue that happened. I don't even know if we know whether it was the switch or the Peplink, but something happened and the PoE didn't work and you were able to run it off the mains. Was it the other way around? I know something happened.
Yeah, no, it was that way around. I mean, but we're not entirely sure what happened. It was a nice trip to Frankfurt, and it did look as though our Peli cases had been drop kicked off the plane.
As they do.
So I'm not sure what went on there, but it's all about sort of options, having that redundancy that when you're out in the field, if something isn't going 100% to plan, which, let's be honest, that's a thing. It's really nice to have options, especially when you're away from home and you can just make things work.
That's absolutely brilliant. Well, I hope you're going to stick around for the rest of the podcast. We've got a lot to talk about. Feel free to chime in if there's anything that you think's of interest to you as well.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Adam. What's next?
Well, you know me, I'm really good at this undercover operation stuff. But there is some stuff, but I'm going to talk about that in a later section. But I think there's some other stuff that perhaps isn't so secretive that we should speak about first. And Global Summit seems like the first one we should have a little chat about because that's not long away. That's probably in just about a month away now.
Something like that. About close to 2 months, actually, but yeah, there's some small details.
Work it out, Joey, when the podcast is coming out as to when the thing's going to be.
It's going to be about
A
month minus 7. Or 2 months minus 7.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
It's about 2 months from now.
Yes.
We can agree with that. Global Summit. Frontiers hosting this. So, Joey, tell us all about it.
Yes. Well, yeah, the Global Summit, it's always nice to meet people from the industry, especially from the Peplink community, which is really nice. And I think that this one is going to be better than the last one that we organized because we also have loads of people from Peplink over there as well. And we already passed like 150 people that registered. We have loads of people coming and hopefully everybody shows up, of course. But you don't want to miss this. There's so many good things about it. Really nice talks. Adam, I think we are also going to be one of the people that are talking. I know that people like to hear us talk because otherwise they won't watch or listen to this podcast, right? So,
well, I like to hear me talk as well, in fairness.
Yes, we all know.
People would like to hear me talk. It just makes sense.
Indeed. Yes, we have a separate room for you, but No. We have loads of exciting stuff. And also, there will be this year a Peplink Innovators Deployment Excellence Award show.
Sorry, Joe, I didn't quite catch that. Can you say what that was again?
All right. So, the Peplink Innovators Deployment Excellence Awards
This
show.
sounds really exciting.
It is
exciting. So
it's exciting, yeah.
This is, I think there's 10 categories, or at least there's 9 categories plus a make your own category of various deployments that you, the Peplink community, may have done. And you can write about them, explain about it, enter this, and get the opportunity to talk a bit about it at the conference, as well as maybe come on with a podcast with us, maybe get a case study with Peplink. There's lots of stuff that you can get around it, and it's really worth entering.
Yes, yeah,
I'm sure
it is.
Sam's going to enter it directly after this and go, well, I'm going to tell him about my deployment, and I think you should, Sam.
I am now, yeah, definitely.
Yes, there's loads of more information on the forum. We will post that in the description down below. And if there are any questions, then feel free to ask that as well. Yeah, Sam, I hope to see you in Amsterdam.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to join you. Definitely.
All right, great. Yeah, it's gonna be great. And Adam, did you get anything else in the world of Peplink? Some news or?
Well, I think we should have a quick talk about the new line of switches coming up, because the other
Ooh,
day I got a little document telling me all the switches that are now on the roadmap and coming out in the next few months. Now, some of these we know about and some of these we don't know about. I think I'll just go through a few of these quickly and, chime in if you want to ask any questions. I'm going to give you the basic features of each of the ones. We're going to start at the bottom. We start off with the what we're calling the professional range of switches. So these are the 1 gigabit to 2.5 gigabit switches. We've got a 24 port switch coming out that's going to be a hybrid switch that will have some 2.5 gigabit ports on there, as well as some PoE AT with a power budget of 410 watts, which I think is quite impressive on a 24 port switch. We've then got a 48 port version of that switch coming out as well, that again will have some 2.5 gig ports, 48 ports of PoE with 740 watt budget. Now, I think what's interesting about both of these switches is because you've got the 2.5 gig, you can now actually power the Peplink AP1 access points on the 2.5 gigabit port. So we now get full speed to those Wi-Fi APs.
that's nice.
And I don't think there's many vendors out there that have got a 2.4 gig PoE port yet.
No,
I've
not
also seen
really.
the price point, and it's very exciting.
Yes.
We then jump up to the high performance switches. So these are purely 2.5 gig switches, so they're not going to have hybrid ports on there. There's a 24 port coming out that's going to have a 2.5 gigabit on all the ports, 12 ports of AT PoE and 8 ports of BT PoE with a 650 watt power budget.
Wow.
Also has a really exciting price point.
All right.
The final one, the extreme performance switch.
Ooh.
This is an 8 port, 10 gigabit switch with 8 ports of BT PoE, 720 watt power budget, and it's also got 4 SFP plus ports, each at 10 gig.
Wow. That is exciting.
That's some good news. That's indeed very exciting.
Now, these all have big ticks next to it, suggesting that they are approved, they are coming out, they are happening. I've got other ones on here which to be confirmed, but those are all equally as exciting.
And they are in the same range in those like professional enterprise.
There's another high performance switch I can see here. There's a more basic 1 gig switch. The one I've missed off actually, and only because I don't know the release date yet, and I don't think the spec's been finalized, there will be a new 8 port rugged switch coming out.
Ooh.
And I would suspect we can expect to see 2.5 gigabit ports on there.
Okay, interesting. Is there anything that has to do with a 16 ports?
No. I do not see on here at the moment a 16 port switch.
Okay, well then we have some talks with Peplink on the summit. We have something to talk about, right?
There we go.
Yeah. So I'm already making some boards that I can hold up. Like I want a 16 port.
And the 16 port feature
Yeah.
request, a product request.
Please release the 16 port.
You could just put 2 8 ports together, Joey.
That's true. And those enterprise, no, I mean those enterprise ones. I've seen them as well. It's like that is gonna be a really really nice one to power stuff to have small deployments, but you still need to PoE out with, for example, the long range dome. Sam, do you know the long range dome?
The long range what?
Yes, the long range dome. The long range dome
Yeah.
is the dome version of the Dome Pro Duo, but then with larger antenna. And that one has the option to have BT power in via PoE. And then you can, on the WAN port, there is also PoE out. So that's why it requires BT, because then you can power an access point, an outdoor access point, for example. The IP
That's
Pro.
really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's pretty cool. And with those 8-port switches, you then can power that one and can power any other devices that you want to power. For example, BR2 or BR1 Mini, stuff that is PoE enabled. And then you can do that. So Adam, just to confirm, all of these switches have PoE out.
All
right?
of the switches have PoE out.
Yes. And the 24 ports, do they also have on every port, or is it on some of the ports?
Depending on whether you get the high performance one or the professional one. So one will be hybrid, and also there'll be some, and some of them won't.
Okay, so it's
although,
really
again, I'm still not 100% certain about that until they actually finalise it.
true.
We don't know.
So
it could just be the speeds are hybrid.
definitely, and also people have to check the data sheets because that's where all of that information is available. So when the switches are released, the data sheets will also be released. You can find them on the Peplink website, and there you can find which ports are PoE enabled or not. All right. Anything else, Adam, that you uncovered?
Can I hijack this? And now we've just spoken about switches. Can I tell my joke?
Sure.
I want
if
to
there's
tell my
nothing
joke
else.
because it's related to the switches. I need to tell the joke.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it. Now I'm really worried, but also excited.
Okay. So what is a Peplink switch's favourite meal?
I don't know. Power.
It's a Big Mac. A Big Mac, as in as in McDonald. A Big Mac, because they can handle lots of Macs because.
Yeah. And then a large meal or a small meal?
I mean, they can keep eating Macs. Really, they can probably supersize it.
How many
You can
Macs are
still do
supported? Well, that's a good
Okay,
one. That's a good one.
Sorry. We can keep going now.
All right. Anything else that there is in the news section for today?
There is the big one, Joey. Come on.
Yeah.
8.5.2.
Yes.
This is the latest firmware. We've already seen the release notes for B1, Beta 1. I suspect that by the time this podcast comes out, there may be a Beta 2. Check the forum as well. We've already started a little trail on there, or Joey did the other day, talking about this and what your favourite updates are, your favourite fixes and things. Feel free to comment on those. It's useful for us as well as useful for the Peplink engineering team.
Yes.
We'll do a separate podcast about this because there's a lot to cover. There are a lot of notes in there. We'll probably have a special name for this podcast. What are we going to call it, Joey?
I hope, and we've been talked about this a few times. I hope we can get a bingo going. So
Bingo.
I'm gonna make some bingo cards for this.
I think we have to.
Yeah. But no, there will be a special firmware. There will be a special episode for it. Yeah, special firmwares. I've been going on with special firmwares all day long. We will do that, and probably we're gonna record that maybe next week, and then
I think so. To give you a bit of background, Sam, probably the reason that Joey and I started up this podcast was because we would talk all the time that some release notes came out for the next firmware, and we would be geeking over it, going, I know about that one. That was one of my customers. I suggested that one, or I tested that one. And we just went through the whole thing going, that's mine. It was getting silly. So we thought, really, that's what we should do as a podcast. But there's so much more to talk about with Peplink that we decided that we'll do special episodes for the firmwares as they come out, and we'll speak about everything else in the monthly one that we release. But yeah, there's going to be a special episode, release note bingo for that firmware. And we may even touch a little bit on a new Switch firmware that I know's coming out as well.
Cool.
Yep.
Good.
All right.
Well, I think that finishes the news for today.
Yes. All right. So, tips and tricks. Adam, I know you have a really good one laying around, but first I want to know something from Sam. Sam, you have a tip or a trick or something that you figured out when working on Peplink? Explain.
Yeah, sure. So this is quite niche, I think. But so just going back to what I said earlier, we bridge on the layer 2 Speed Fusion between SDX at HQ and a BR2 on site. So just to reaffirm, bridging the layer 2. I had an issue where I needed to break traffic out of the Speed Fusion tunnel locally. This was actually in Abu Dhabi. So rather than coming straight here, I needed to break it directly out of the WAN port. And it sent me into a bit of a spiral because I was like, I'm bridging layer 2, so how can I break that traffic out if I just couldn't compute it. And yeah, it's something that Steve showed me, that in the outbound policies, basically there's it's just one of those things that you'd completely miss if you didn't know. But there's expert mode, and in outbound policies, you've got basically a blue ribbon that says Speed Fusion VPN, which looks like the title, but it's not. That is the Speed Fusion VPN, and you can actually drag rules above the Speed Fusion VPN.
Yes.
There was no snookering, and that really shocked me pleasantly.
Yeah. No, it is. And it is also good to know that if you're doing outbound policies via in control, that expert mode has been automatically enabled. So in the web admin, you can choose to select it or not. If you use the in control outbound policy and you push that config to your device, the expert mode is automatically enabled. Good to know as well, right? So thanks for sharing that, Sam. I think that's a really good one. And I know lots of people are going to use that as well. That are definitely with layer 2 bridging and all of those things. So thanks.
Thank you.
Adam, you had, I think yours is like five rows in length.
5 rows in length. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
The annoying thing is Sam's kind of stolen my thunder a little bit on this one, because I was going to talk about the BR2 and how you can dual power BR2 using the WAN port and switching the WAN up to a LAN. But there's reasons why I do this as well. I mean, Sam's obviously doing it by powering his devices. That WAN port that's on a BR2, WAN 1, is a 2.5 gigabit port. And there's not many WANs out there you can actually utilize that kind of 2.5 gigabit port. So I think it's much more sensible to use that for your core side, for your switch side, especially with the new switches that are coming out that are going to be able to not only power on PoE, but also provide a 2.5 gigabit sync on the cable. And you don't have to lose that WAN port as well, or, you lose one of the WAN ports, because we can switch up any one of those LAN ports and make it a VLAN as WAN. And I like a VLAN as WAN.
Yes.
I do like a VLAN as well. I like about 101 of them, to be honest. But I do like a VLAN as WAN.
That's old. That's old. That's an old number. It's gonna be more.
Just wait to the summit in May.
Yes.
I've got things planned. There's going to be some interesting demos there in the tech room. So, and I'm probably correct in saying, Joey, that the BR2 isn't limited to only having one VLAN as WAN. There is a possibility to license another port, is there?
You can go up to 3 virtual WANs.
3 virtual WANs. So we could actually have 4 WANs on there using my way of switching the WAN up to LAN. But in actual fact, you could have 5 WANs at a LAN on a BR2.
Yep.
I can see Sam's thinking now.
I mean, that's incredible. In addition to the Wi-Fi and cellular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
You can do this on any PrimeCare device. Any PrimeCare device will go up to 3. And if you have the balanced 310X, for example, or the HD4 MBX, you can go to 10. And with the EPX and I think the STX Pro, you can go up to 40 virtual WANs. Yeah. So loads of possibilities. Yes.
I mean, it's still the question is why you'd want that many VLAN WANs or that many WANs, but you might want to route traffic all over the place.
Well, is there any such thing as too much redundancy?
And not with Peplink.
No. There's never too much.
Joey, you've got here written Intouch.
Yes, I do think so I was on an event the other day, and there was a nice robotic arm on our stand. Maybe you've seen on the socials. If not, follow the socials.
Worth checking out. It's impressive.
Definitely, it is useful. I really like that. I really want one at home for my laundry duties. But it also got me thinking, like, oh, this is great. You can, because it was all locally, like there was a device that you can, there was a user interface and stuff like that. I was like, wow, we can do with Intouch, we can do this from the other side of the world. Intouch is so great. So I really briefly want to touch on that. I thought it was amazing. And if you're not using this, Sam, if you want to have a chat about it later, I'm happy to tell you about it. But this is one of the things that makes In Control really, really good. And it gives you an opportunity to have a land-side device and then have an Intouch user that you assign to use only Intouch. So if you have a third party that needs to check a security system, anything else that is in your LAN of your Peplink, you can give them access as an Intouch user. They only can access the Intouch, and then they can access the device. So if you need to have a third party adding or doing some checks remotely, you can use Intouch for that. So I thought, yeah, I really like that.
So cool.
All right, let's talk about features, feature requests, in more specific. Sam, do you have a feature that you would like to be added into the Peplink environment?
So I came across an interesting thing the other day. So when you create a DHCP reservation, it would be brilliant to me in my use case if if within In Control it could also create a DNS record for that DHCP reservation, because at the moment the workflow is a pretty strong duplication of data. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else is affected by that.
It's an interesting one, Joey. Have you seen this before?
I just checked the forum, and there is one from November 2018 that has DHCP reservations and local DNS records. So there is something, somebody else that's already asked for this. But I will put the link down below, and we can comment on that, or because it's a really old one, maybe we need to start a new one. But I think this is a really good one, because I don't know if this is a hidden feature, or is this something that needs to be added in a different place, or it's just not there yet. Definitely one to put on the forum, Sam. I think that is a really good one, and we can share that, and we can have somebody look at it. Because
it only makes sense. I think if you're creating a DHCP reservation, you'd expect the DNS entry to be there as part of that.
Yes.
It just makes a nice flow. If that was the way to configure it through the DHCP reservation at that stage, it's much easier than having to go to multiple places if it does exist somewhere else. So I think that's a really good one, Sam.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, me too.
That's way better than ours, Joey.
Yes, that's an actual use. No. Ours are useful as well.
Ours are useful, but we have to scour the forum for our ideas. So
yeah,
I know we found a couple we'd like to speak about, haven't we, Joey? The first one is about password protecting the config on the device. Do you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this is something that I want to highlight, because the configuration files are already encrypted, right? So since 8.3.0, the firmware version, it is already encrypted, and you cannot open it if you download the config file. So it's not about that. It's about having the configuration passwords protected, so that as soon as you put configuration on it, it is protected by a password. So this is a very, very open one, or a bit of a larger one, because you can address this in so many ways. You can do this on, if you want to look it on in control, or you want to look it on the web admin locally. There's a bit of variation in that, and I think it's a really good thread that is already starting in that post. And also Michael from the in control team is reacting on it. So I think this is a really good one, and I think it's useful definitely when cybersecurity is getting much more important nowadays than it was back in the day. So I think this is a really good one to be added into the Peplink ecosystem.
I mean, talking about cybersecurity and taking this to another level, we've already got two-factor authentication on in control, which is really good. But there isn't anything like that on the device itself. I was speaking to somebody the other day saying that when you log onto the router now, all you need is a username and a password, and you're into the box. And it'd be really nice if there was an option to have a second authentication option on there in order to get directly into the box. Otherwise, you could just brute force the device.
Yeah.
I mean, Peplink's very good
Yeah.
already that if you have the default password, it will ask you to change the default password, and it'll actually stop you going any further through the config until you have changed that default password.
Yes.
But most people will just put an exclamation mark after the current password, won't they, or something like that.
Don't say that.
Isn't it? You
Don't
start
say
off
that,
with
no.
the word password, and then you add password 1, and then password 123, and then password 123 exclamation mark. And now, I don't know about you, but all my things are now saying that I have to have a password that's X number of characters long now. I'm just adding another exclamation mark. But feel
Okay,
free
so
to try and
everybody
log into my
can-
bank account.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody can hack you now. Great. But do know that there is a maximum tries of like 5 tries before you get locked out. So you cannot brute force it specifically on that way. There is a way to prevent that. Also, you can lock the configuration as well. I think it's via the API you can lock the configuration even though you reset the device. So even though you rent out the device, for example, you don't want to have people messing up the configuration. In your occasion, Adam, most of the times you rent out the devices, right? So yeah, that's a possibility to lock that as well. And if you need any help with that, let us know. Happy to help. Yeah, and
That might be something for you to think about as well, Sam.
Yeah.
When your devices go out for outside broadcast,
Yeah.
just restricting what people can access on the devices. There might be some things there you haven't thought about, and reach out to the team.
Yeah, definitely.
yes. All right. So, Adam, you also had one that I found really, really interesting.
Yeah, so I've been looking at the Peplink POTS adapter, and for those people that don't know what it is, it allows you to replace that copper telephone line that you had with a Peplink device and give that old telephone or that old copper line telecommunications device a phone number using a SIM card, using specifically voice over LTE technology. Which is very simple. You put a SIM card into the device the same as you would with your mobile phone, your cell phone, and then you'll plug your phone into phone port number 1 on the front of the device, and suddenly you've got that phone number on your device, which is great for retrofitting things like alarm panels in lifts or alarm systems, even that telephone that you might have bought because you thought it looked really pretty with the old rotary dial on there and you just want to use it at home, but you can't plug it into a phone line anymore. But that's using voice over LTE. Somebody's now asking, could we use a SIP client on there? So that's creating a using an existing internet connection on the device, creating a SIP trunk over to whichever provider that you've chosen, and then using that phone on the telephony device.
Can you explain shortly what SIP is for the people that don't know?
SIP and VoIP. VoIP might be something that we've all heard of. It's basically a voice over IP technology. It's basically tunneling a telephone line over a IP network, which could be anything as simple as your home internet connection. It could be cellular, it could be Starlink, it could be anything.
Yep.
I do also understand the POTS adapter has a Peplink eSIM already inside as
Yes,
well. So there is the ability to use that. It just becomes an easily deployable solution. But I think it's an interesting one to think about. I'm not convinced that in all situations having a SIP client or a voice over IP client on the POTS adapter is necessarily the safest and the best way. I can see certain emergency scenarios where that may not work around Europe. So I know there's certain regulations there, but for other devices, even down, you could use a fax machine across it. There's a thought.
Yeah,
Joey, do you know what a
exactly.
fax machine is?
Yes, I know, Adam. I know.
A facsimile. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is really interesting as well. And do you know that for example, in Europe, the POTS adapter is called the voice over LTE, the VoLTE adapter. Anything else you want to add to that, Adam, as well, from that feature request?
Not till next time. Got a really exciting one for next time.
All right. I think that's it for today's episode, Adam, Sam. I really, really like this one, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in Amsterdam, of course. I hope. Yeah, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really good fun. I've learned a lot. I really hope I can come to Amsterdam. That sounds amazing, and I'll have to get my entry in for the deployment. But
you must, Sam. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think we've covered an awful lot on this week's podcast. There's a lot more coming up. Watch out for the new 8.5.2. We're going to have a specific podcast as well about some other features that are coming out soon. But for now, that's the end of episode 7. We'll see you all next time.
Yes. Bye-bye.